Amen. Tonight's lesson, it was not publicized, but as usual, I'll be using some of this book, all about goals and how to achieve them. And I will, when I read from a page or a paragraph, I'll tell you what the page number is. Some of you may have the book at home, or some of you may want to buy the book later. But we'll give you a flavor of it during tonight's lesson. Every one of us is a goal setter, whether we realize it or not. We goal set even if we go to the grocery store or the doctor's office or go to work or go to visit someone. We goal set and set certain goals to reach a certain place at a certain time or to do certain things. Some goals are major objectives and some are minor objectives. All are important in making up the pattern of our lives. Many times we set negative goals, and then we wonder why we have negative experiences. And many times we set negative goals subconsciously, without really consciously thinking about it. Elmer Wheeler, the author of the book Sell the Sizzle and Not the Steak, says this about goals. He says, many men and women fail in life, not for lack of ability, or lack of brains, or even lack of courage, but simply because they have not organized their energies around a central goal. We all must realize that there are universal laws which we must work in agreement with in order to bring about successful results in our goal setting. One of the great laws that we use in Unity, and this book as well, is the law of mind action, which simply says, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. In other words, the dominant thought that we hold in our mind will reproduce a mental equivalent of that thought out into our experience. And this is one of the keys during all of tonight's lesson and in goal setting that we need to understand. There's the law of goal achievement, which is right here. That which you can conceive of, believe in, and confidently expect for yourself must necessarily become your experience. Think about that. That which we can conceive of, believe in, and confidently expect. So we must have the thought, the idea to begin with. Then we must believe in it. And then we must confidently expect it, which is the faith factor. We'll talk about that a little later on. Setting and achieving goals is done in two parts. First is the inner, the invisible preparation, the preparation we do on the inner, and second is the outer, or the visible preparation. And the point I want to bring out here is that the inner preparation, the invisible, is always greater than the outer visible preparation. Your power of choice enables you to live like an angel or a devil, a king or a slave. Whatever you choose, your mind will create and manifest. That's a very important insight. See, whatever you choose, God has given you the right to choose anything that you want. Any thought that you want, you have a right to choose that. But you must always accept the responsibility for that thought. Now, on page 41 of this book, it says this: we have used this principle, asking the subconscious mind to work for us while we sleep, over and over again, to find the right house for us, the right automobile, the right answers to many problems. It works every time. Listen to this. Every need we have in life is an opportunity to set a goal. Every need that we have in life is an opportunity to set a goal and let the subconscious mind achieve it for us, through us. Tonight we're going to be dealing with three basic principles. The first one is we live, we love, we work, we act, not in accordance with the truth, but we live, we love, we work, we act in accordance with the truth as we believe it to be, as we think it is, as we perceive it in our life. We will act according to that truth that we think is true. The second principle is we move toward and become like that which we picture in our minds, whether it's good for us or not. Makes no difference. You have the tremendous power of creative thought. And all of the God's power in the universe comes to bear on what it is that you think about. And it has the job to bring that thought, that dominant thought, into experience in your life. And the law says it doesn't matter what you think. You've got freedom of choice. You can put in love or hate, poverty or riches. It makes no difference. The law works perfectly every time. You must choose. And thirdly, all meaningful and lasting change begins first on the inside, the invisible, and then works its way to the outer. It must first start in the imagination. Now, the word imagination comes from image making, you see. And we have the ability to form pictures in our mind. Do you remember the Columbus story? See, he wanted to sail around the world. But of course, in his day, everybody knew the earth was flat. See, his belief was very different from the rest of the people in his time, so he had to convince them to let him try. You see, that was the truth, as he believed that the world was round. While everyone else's belief was the world is flat, and so they acted in accordance with that belief. They would sail out those days in small ships. There wasn't any need for bigger ones. And they'd only go out so far, chicken out, and come back, you see, because they didn't want to fall off the end of the earth. But that was the belief they had. Therefore, they acted in accordance with that belief. And it made no difference what the truth was. It was the truth to them, and they acted out in accordance with that truth. You see, we are discovering that many of the things we once believed were impossible are now being done. Go back to when Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. See, up to that point, it couldn't be done. Once Roger did it, then a lot of people started hitting that mark. You see, they were able to run in under 4 minutes. The interesting thing is, if you follow that story, is that when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, they found out 2 days later that he really didn't. The watch was wrong. There was something wrong, and he really didn't do it, but everybody thought he did. And he thought he did, and he ran 2 or 3 days later and did it again. Because he knew he could. So it's what we believe, what we accept of the truth in our life, we tend to bring out into our experience. Where do these imaginary limits come from? And what can you and I do about these limits in our own life? Tonight's session will help you understand some of the traps of the conditionings as it relates to setting goals. We have accepted the fact that people are born with it or born without it. Or that she's a born leader, and so on. If you still believe this, that's old age thinking. It's just not true. No one's just born with it or born without it. Now we're beginning to learn that each of us as human beings has an unlimited potential if we don't accept the false barriers. You and I have unlimited potential for good, for prosperity, for love, for peace, for perfect health. We have unlimited. It's only limited by what we think about it. Dr. Suzuki in Los Angeles has children playing the violin by the time they are 3 and giving concerts by the time they are age 5. If you're an old age thinker, you will think, well, obviously they are born with it, inherited, of course. But Dr. Suzuki crashes this myth because he teaches these kids by the thousands. And if he can, he begins teaching the child before it is born. I know what you're thinking, Ray. That violin must be awfully small. Or Harry, you're probably thinking it must be awfully tough on the mother. But what he does, if he can, is to get the parents to come to class before the child is born, so that he can teach mom and dad that their child has unlimited potential. And then the parents will in turn train the child that they have unlimited potential to learn, to grow, and to change. And these kids go out and do it because they have the potentials already there, and they begin to understand. The truth becomes to them that they have unlimited potential and that they can do these things. And it works. So you and I act in accordance with the truth as we believe it to be. And you and I also set goals in accordance with the truth as you think it is about yourself. We move toward and become like that which we picture in our mind, whether it's good for us or not. This is God's law, divine law, universal law. It works the same for all people. It works for the just and the unjust alike. You see, species man, you and I, are what we call teleological in nature. And that means we're the only animal that thinks in pictures. And we have that ability, that power, to think in pictures. Most every time we have a dominant thought about something, a picture comes along with it. And that's very, very powerful in our mind, as you'll see a little later on. Whatever dominant picture you have in your mind, you will move constantly toward fulfilling that picture in your human experience. And finally, all meaningful and lasting change begins first on the inside, on the inner, and then works its way to the outer. It must first start in the imagination. Oh, we can get temporary change. We can diet. We can stop smoking for a little while, or whatever the case may be. But what happens is the moment we relax, we begin to move back towards that same picture that we had, you see. That picture in our mind that we had before of our smoking, of our eating, overeating, or whatever the case may be. But for meaningful and lasting change, we need to change the picture first. That's the key. Not beating ourselves over the head because we fell down a little bit, but picking ourselves up, realizing we have unlimited potential to achieve our goal, and then begin to work on changing that picture of us on the inner. Let's look at the board for a minute. This is the mind, your mind, my mind, composed of conscious, subconscious, and what we can call superconscious, which is divine mind. We're made in the image and likeness of God. We all have divine mind within us. This is where our unlimited potential comes from. The conscious mind is open to the outer sense world, that we perceive the world we live in through our 5 physical senses. And we're pumping in that information that we get out here into this very powerful workshop of our mind, which is the subconscious. The conscious mind directs, chooses, analyzes, reasons, imagines, judges, decides on a course of action based on our immediate needs and goals. We do that all with the conscious mind. Conscious mind is very, very important to us, because this is where we choose what we allow into this powerful, powerful subconscious mind. We stand porter at the door of thought. You can let in what you want, you can keep out what you want, but you have to work at it. Okay? Because we let in, all of us, me and everybody, we let in thoughts and ideas that are unlike the perfect nature of God. You see, and those are the ones that we want to keep out. Now let's look at the subconscious mind. A vast memory storehouse, like a computer. It controls all vital processes. Controls your heartbeat. Controls your breathing. In other words, we don't have to think about getting our heart started in the morning, right? It's automatic, see? It creates according to your thoughts. Now, this is very, very powerful. Now, remember, it can't judge. Whatever you put in there, it will move heaven and earth to bring into your experience. It has no power to choose or judge. None at all. That's done with your conscious mind. So once it's in here, then you have to deal with it or get rid of it. But as long as you leave it in there and let it continue to work, it's gathering power. Gathering power. It records and stores your interpretation of the truth as you believe it to be. Doesn't have to be true. Okay? It just records and stores whatever that belief happens to be. Example, it records and stores your thoughts, your self-talk, your emotions, and your pictures that you put in that come with your experience. It reproduces the mental equivalent of your dominant thought. This is real, raw power that you have right within you right now. Absolutely. Then we have divine mind, superconscious, if you will. Infinite intelligence. It all means the same thing. And this is open to the allness of God. To all that the Father has is yours. See, you've already got it. You may not be using it all, but you've got it. You've got the potential there. Perfect mind, seat of all knowledge, realm of divine ideas. What are divine ideas? Perfect health, peace, love, joy, harmony, order, perfect human relationships, lavish abundance. All of those are the divine ideas of God that are within you right now. If you're looking for God's will in your life, God's will for you is to express all the goodness of God. Okay? All power of the universe resides here. Where? Within you. See, Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. That's where it is. That's where the powerhouse is. So we need to begin to learn how our mind works and begin to go with the flow, with the power, and use it constructively in our life. Okay, now that basically is how our mind works. The superconscious mind, okay, is what will, it has the power to, well, it makes your performance and behavior match your picture that you carry inside of you. You know, sometimes we walk around with a very weak picture of ourselves. We might think that we can't earn or shouldn't earn more than just bare necessities. That's where I was years ago. Okay? That was the truth as I believed it to be. And therefore, if I got any more money in to use, I became very uneasy. See, that was a sin. That was the truth as I believed it to be. So what did I have to do? Had to change the picture. Had to change my belief. And begin to work with that. And some of these beliefs that we have, some of the ideas, the concepts, are very deeply seated. And they don't just go out like that. We have to work at it and work with it. So if you are goal setting for success in any area, and you have failure or limited pictures, then you will be required to create new images and new pictures. See? What is the human thing that we do? When things go wrong, we get out here and we start messing up, changing people, trying to change events and circumstances. And what we need to do is get back in here and change ourselves. Change our attitude towards what's happening out here. And begin to build some creative, beautiful ideas about ourselves, about God. And let the power work for us. On page 47, it says this: the conscious mind has the power of choice. The conscious mind can use all its powers of mental investigation, analysis, study, weighing of facts to determine the choice of a goal to be set. That's what we do with our conscious mind. Very important. Once the choice is made, the subconscious mind will accept that choice as a direction. The potency of that choice will depend upon the intensity of the feeling, the intensity of the desire, the intensity of the acceptance, and persistence and perseverance of the conscious mind. The right use of the will is to keep the attention on the objective. See, keep your mind on your goal, not on the problems involved with it. Okay? How do we properly set goals? You do so by creating the picture of what you want. Do not choose or create pictures of what you don't want. Sounds easy. Everybody thinks, well, good night, I wouldn't create pictures of something I don't want. That's silly. We all do it. We all do it. A lot of times when we're confronted with something completely unexpected that strikes terror, perhaps, as we look at it initially, what's the first thing human beings do? They throw all their teachings out the window, don't they? And you go right back and start groveling, and you become part of the problem then. Say, I do it, you do it. Dr. Don does it. Only when he's not walking on water, however. Okay, on page 51 and 52, it says this: there is no limit set by infinite mind. Absolutely no limits over here. That's part of you. Man can go as far as he wishes or stay where he is. His responsibility is to choose his goal. Choose your destination. The only limiting factor is you. Or me, if I'm talking about me. If he continues to sit and shiver in the cold, whimpering and complaining, that is his right as a free agent. Never forget that. That is absolutely your right. But he can pick himself up and make his way to the warm glow of the eternal fire and enter into a life that contains all the elements of happiness. It's also our right. And that's what God wants for us. Others can help him, but he cannot do it for him. Even God cannot do it for you. Because God doesn't choose for you. You choose. on his, if it is his job and his alone to do it, yours or mine. On his voyage of self-discovery, he is the captain of his ship and therefore solely responsible for making harbor. Your responsibility then is to choose your destination, to choose your goal. God isn't going to do it for you. It is here, done consciously. Conscious effort. Whether you realize it or not, you are now experiencing today your past choices. And your tomorrow depends on today's choices. Every time you make a choice or set a goal, you set in motion the perfect power of the universe for the purpose of causing your choice to become manifest in your experience. Very, very important insight. That whenever we set a goal, we set tremendous power, tremendous machinery into operation, whose sole job is to bring that dominant goal, that dominant thought, into fruition in your life. And we'll talk more about that. Most of us set goals on past experience. We must learn to set goals based on expectations. We must learn to think differently. Past experience, your past experience is usually full of misinformation. Past experience comes from a conditioned mind. Begin to base your goals on expectations, what you expect to have.